Okay, good evening, everyone. We're just about to get started. Invite everyone to take your seats. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Just one more time, in case anyone needs the restroom facilities, they are out the door to our left. I believe men's room is to the left, and women's room is to the right. In case there's a need to evacuate this evening due to a fire alarm or other emergency, we'll go back out the front doors the way we came in and to the left to reach the front doors. And if anyone requests Spanish translation services this evening, we do have a Spanish translator available at the table in the back.
Okay, so thank you, Chris, and thank you all for coming. We really appreciate you guys coming out tonight and learning about the process and having an opportunity to talk with committee members and myself and staff about the maps. I am Matthew Cropper with Cropper GIS Consulting. I'm the consultant who has been working with this committee and the district as they work to evaluate options for this area. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is for you to learn how this community-based boundary study process has been working, to review some options, and you'll see we have maps, 3 copies of the maps. There's one set here, the current boundaries, and then option A, B, and C, and then we have another set back there and a set back here. They're all the same maps. And then we have some of the statistics and data that the committee has been looking at as well to help answer any questions you may have so you can be more informed. So really reviewing all this information and having conversations with committee members around the maps. And most importantly, we want you to complete an online survey that is available out there right now so that you guys can participate in the survey. And you can tell people who weren't able to make it tonight that they can go online. This is being live streamed. It's also going to be recorded. So anybody who couldn't make it tonight can go online, look at the presentation, and also review the maps, and then participate in the survey as well. So a boundary change study is basically, a boundary is a line that defines a school attendance area. So every school in this region has a boundary that basically designates where students go to school. This process of studying boundaries and making changes to boundaries is guided by policy and rule 1280, which is something that you can go online and look in more detail about that. It's facilitated by an independent consultant, and we are Cropper GIS, like I mentioned. We are the consultant who's facilitating this particular process. And it's driven by a committee that's made up of principals, teachers, parents from schools in the study area that we are working with, that schools that are anticipated to potentially be impacted by any move. And it's finally coordinated to provide an objective examination of data, creation of options, collaboration and deliberation by this group, and then also public engagement. So we've had the public has been at these meetings. They can come watch the committee meetings and observe the progress of the committee, as well as, just like this is being recorded and live streamed, all of the meetings that have been held are also available online that you can go on and review if you'd like. And this committee is tasked to make a recommendation to the Board of Education, which then it goes in their hands, and nothing is final until the board approves a plan. Like I said, we're Cropper GIS Consulting. We're based out of Ohio, but we do this kind of work all over the United States. We've worked with districts all over, and this is just the kind of work that we do on a day-to-day basis. I am Matthew Cropper, and the president of the company, and I've been working in this area for about 20 years in school redistricting and boundary study work. And so I bring a lot of experience in what has and what hasn't worked with communities across the United States, as well as the technology and being able to accurately and efficiently put data and statistics together so that people understand what the impact would be of moving an area one way or the other. Like I said, the committee is representative of people from this area. We have 13 members in this group. 9 are voting members. There's 3 principals. So the 3 principals from all 3 schools in the study area are on the committee, but they are non-voting members. They cannot vote on a plan. There are 3 teacher and staff representatives, 6 parents, which is comprised of 2 parents from each school, and then 1 area educational advisory council representative. We always ask the committee to take off your parent hat when you get around the table and put on your committee member hat and really focus on the needs of all children in this whole study area, and don't just focus on your area, the school that your child or that you're affiliated with, and really think objectively and think big picture, because their neighboring schools need assistance many times, and their neighbors are helping them out by helping to provide capacity relief and things like that, like we're doing here. Committee's been at all these meetings, and they're meeting 7 times from September through December, and presenting a recommendation to the Board of Education via the community superintendent. This is where we are in the process. Like I said, we've met 4 times so far. We have a public information session. We have 2 more meetings after this, and then there's a Board of Education meeting following that, which is anticipated the recommendation is expected to be delivered in February. And so there's 2 more meetings after this where the committee is going to evaluate feedback from the public and see if there's any changes that can be made to bring us closer to adhering to our objectives and considerations. So why is there a need for a boundary study in this area? As of September 30, 2018, Pleasant Plains Elementary, which is the purple zone that you see on the maps, was over capacity by 122 students. It's operating at about 126% of its capacity. So it's definitely overcrowded, and it needs capacity relief. Some of the other schools in the area have some available space. Hampton has more space than Halstead. So you'll see a lot of these maps do move more students into the Hampton zone to try it, because they have more available capacity than Halstead does within the study area. But enrollment is anticipated to continue to increase at Pleasant Plains Elementary, as well as the other 2 elementary schools in our study area. And there are limited relief options in this area. And for this region, they have already considered a variety of relief strategies to help provide capacity relief to Pleasant Plains Elementary School. You can see that this shows you from simple to complex some of the strategies that have been considered. Capacity analysis and room use recommendations. So maybe taking a room that may be a computer lab that's not being used very often and converting it into a classroom. Other types of resource spaces and spaces that are used for individual instruction, things like that have already been utilized and fully exhausted to make sure they're using every last space they can. Use of relocatable classrooms is another method. That's so portables or modular classrooms. They have 8 units right now that are slated for the 2019-20 school year. So there are 8 modular units out there at Pleasant Plains right now, and the site size of the school is only limited. It's limited in size. They cannot add any more modular units out there. So they have already expanded and exhausted that as a method to provide some capacity relief to the school. And enrollment caps and annexing. Sometimes what they'll do is a school district will annex a grade level out, or if they'll overflow that, to say there's no more space for 5th graders. Okay, any 5th grader comes into the district in this school area has to go to another school, and that's really not something that's best practice. It's not the best way to go about handling overcrowding, but it's some ways that school districts do, and so annexation of grade is not viable in this area. And then this redistricting, which we're looking at boundary change study, is really a midterm relief strategy. I think that the committee realizes that this is not going to be, doing some boundary changes here is not going to be the end-all solution to help resolve overcrowding in this area, and that it's going to have to continue to be evaluated as time goes on, as enrollment fluctuates, as new apartments coming online or new homes are being constructed in different areas. We're aware of that. We're aware of where the construction is going, and mindful of how enrollment is continuing to increase in these areas, even in schools other than Pleasant Plains like Hampton and Halstead. So when considering schools that could provide capacity relief to Pleasant Plains, Hampton and Halstead were the ones that were considered the most reasonable options. Few schools in the area that are in the area surrounding this have additional capacity to be able to help. I know a lot of people have asked, well, what about these schools that are outside of the color areas on the map? And those schools, we've evaluated those, the district has evaluated those, and there is not a whole lot of space in the other areas out adjacent to the study area to help provide additional relief. Halstead Academy does share some neighborhoods that could walk to either school, but as we've said, Halstead's enrollment, just like Hampton and Pleasant Plains, is continuing to increase, and Halstead also has a higher percentage of free and reduced lunch, lower income. And so when you get to schools that have a higher proportion of low income, it's better not to have them be on the higher side of utilization, because students with the lower income have greater needs and they require more attention and things. So it's something that we're being mindful of and trying to make sure that things are equitable. So the objectives of this is the objectives of this process is to provide capacity relief to Pleasant Plains, to support diversity among schools that reflects the community in the school system. So not only look at utilization and capacity, but also the demographics of the schools, and seeing if we can't improve the demographic diversity of schools, if at all possible. And create viable and successful boundaries to effectively utilize the available capacity within the study area. We have the rules per Rule 1280. They are the considerations and the rules that we follow as we look at evaluating boundary lines. And so these are the primary considerations are to make efficient use of capacity in schools and to maintain or increase the diversity among schools of the region and the school system. Other things that the committee is tasked to look at and evaluate when they look at one option versus the other is to maintain the continuity of neighborhoods. Try not to draw the line down the middle of a residential street if at all possible, and make sure that we try to keep communities and neighborhoods intact if it's possible. Be mindful of the impact of transportation and pedestrian patterns on students. And this has been tough in this one because in almost every case, there's the areas that are being moved to a school that's farther away than where they currently, the community currently goes. And there are some exceptions to that and some adjustments that are being made between Pleasant Plains and Halstead, but it's just something that is unavoidable in many cases in order to accomplish our objectives. Minimize the number of times any individual students are reassigned, and that doesn't apply here. There hasn't been a boundary change study in this area in quite a while, so that's not applicable in this particular study. Be mindful of long-term enrollment and capacity trends and future capital plans, not only looking at the students that we know are as of the date that we're studying the data, but also be mindful of the most recent enrollment, and then also what's the projected enrollment of schools and things like that. Location of feeder school boundaries and continuity of feeder patterns. So we're focusing only on elementaries. No change that's being made as a result of this process is going to have any impact on middle or high schools. It's only going to be on elementary schools. But we are studying the relationship between elementaries and middles elementaries to middle schools, so that we can be mindful of where as a boundary line moves, what is the impact on the percentage of a school that splits to a middle school. And there are some feeder pattern splits that exist inside this in this process, and we've evaluated those, and we have some statistics and data to be able to understand what the impact would be. There's a high school consideration, which isn't really a part of our task. And additional things that we're looking at is using geographic features such as railroads, creeks, major highways, major roads, and trying to draw the lines along those if at all possible, just to try to ensure an easier way to explain a boundary, and also avoiding the amount of time students have to cross over major roads and things like that, even if it's on a school bus, if at all possible. This committee has met 4 times since September, and they've spent many hours reviewing this information. They have reviewed 4 different variations of draft options. They're bringing 3 maps to you tonight. They felt like the one of the 4 that they were originally looking at, they felt was not worthy of making it to this level for the public's input. Not to say that they may not go back and look at different components of that, but they have 3 maps for you tonight to review. They've looked at a lot of data and information, enrollment capacity. There's walking maps that show you the areas that are walkable to schools, and looking at student diversity and demographic data. And all of the statistics are supported and shown right here on these table plots next to the maps. Like I said, everything's draft. Nothing is set in stone. Even when the committee makes a recommendation, it's still draft. And nothing is finalized until the board approves a plan. So even if you want to provide input as you are here, you can also provide input at the school board meetings as well, and in public comment and talking to school board members at their regular scheduled school board meetings. So this committee is charged to recommend one of these options or a modification of these options. They've got 2 more meetings after this. They could make changes to these maps if your input drives a change that brings us closer to adhering to those rules and considerations. We're not looking for input in this process that, well, this number of people said that they like this map, so this is the map we need to pick. That would be nice if the majority of people approve one map and that it also is the best map to adhere to our objectives and our considerations, but it's not a popularity contest type of map. It's one that sometimes the lesser map, the lesser popular map is the one that committees bring forward just because it's the one that best adheres to the objectives and the considerations that we are tasked with. You'll see when you look on the maps that there's these little things called planning blocks. They're little building blocks for boundary changes. And each planning block has a planning block ID number on it. And then below that planning block shows you the number of students that live inside that block that goes to their zoned school. So when you look at the maps and look at the planning blocks, you can see, okay, how many kids live in this planning block? And you can kind of understand what the impact would be of an area moving one way or the other. And if you, as you give feedback on the survey, you can tell us what planning block number you live in, if you'd like, and that helps us kind of orient. Okay, this is the small area that they're talking about that we can focus on and see what the comments and thoughts are from that community. Like I said, we have statistics and data along with the maps to help you kind of see what we're looking at, and we can talk to that if we're having conversations and committee members are having conversations with you around the maps. So we have information such as the statistics of the head count and the enrollment. So FTE enrollment takes a fraction to account for AM and PM kindergarten. Head count is counting all the students that both AM and PM kindergarten. So FTE is a full-time equivalent enrollment for a school. And other statistics, this is how many live and attend in and how many live out and attend in and things like that. You see information such as the farms, which is free and reduced meal percentage, and then percent ELL, English language learners. And then for each option, we start to show you the estimated enrollment. And so what's the current enrollment of the school? And then what's the enrollment in the estimate? So this would help you answer how many students do we estimate to be inside the building as we are modeling this. Now, I should note these are September 30th, 2018 numbers. We started this process using September 30, 2018. I know that there is September 30, 2019 numbers that are, if they're not available yet, they're close to being ready. But as this process matures, we're coming into the last 2 meetings after this. So since we're straddling 2 years, we're basically follow through with the September 30, 2018. But we have been providing updated enrollment numbers to the committee and made them available so that you can understand how enrollment has fluctuated based off of current enrollment as of 2019. This shows you utilization. It's the same thing as estimated enrollment, but it just shows you how full is the building, the percent full. And then these show you the over-under and capacity. So if there's a negative number, it shows you how many seats are available. If there's a positive number, it shows you how many seats they are over capacity. And you can see there is an imbalance looking at the number of seats that are available versus the number of seats that a school is over capacity, which is why we are here looking at this. Percent minority, you can see what the impact is on minority of percent minority. And this is the study area average, and then what each school's percent minority is, and then how each option compares to the current. So you can see how things differ from option to option based off of the current enrollment. We have information on the number of students impacted, so you can see how many kids would be moved in any particular option. And this shows you the total numbers here, but these numbers here represent the number of students that are moved in the tan colors. So Halstead Academy in option A sends 10 students to Hampton. Pleasant Plains sends 33 students to Halstead Academy, and then Pleasant Plains sends 98 students to Hampton. And that's how you can see the details that roll up to these totals. These are feeder pattern tables. So you can see we always look at the current boundary data to see what percentage of a school is split. So you can see 2 schools are currently split 3 ways in this study area. Hampton is split to 3 different middle schools, and Pleasant Plains is split to 3 different middle schools currently. And then how each option compares in terms of the percentage of split and where the schools are being split. So we've resolved some of the splits in some cases. In some cases, we've added a split just due to the nature of where the middle school's lines are, and trying to be mindful, but knowing that we can't make a change to middle school zones in this part of this process. We have data on the walkers, how many walkers, and so these are numbers of students attending inside the walk zones. So you'll see Halstead is one, the one that's more pertinent to this, and that Halstead had the darker yellow area is the area that's been determined by transportation where students could walk to school. The hatch pattern that you see on that walk zone map shows where students are currently walkers, where the transportation does not provide transportation. But the yellow areas that extend beyond that hatch pattern where kids could walk to school. So the committee has looked at developing a boundary that has all walkers in Halstead. But what they've seen and challenged with is that if you assign all the walkers to Halstead, then it puts Halstead way over capacity. And so that's something that they have not been able to consider as part of this process. So it's a gallery walk format tonight. We don't have like an open mic type format where people get in line and voice their concerns. And the reason we do that is that we want to make, this is also not only educating you, but you're educating us. It's a data collection effort. And we've seen that a lot of times when you have the open mic type format, people get in line and we hear the same comments from the same person, and also there may be people who want to provide input who don't feel comfortable speaking publicly. So in this format, we have a gallery walk where committee members are going to be around maps, talking with you and answering questions, and myself and staff. And then we have a survey that's accompanied with this. If you're on the committee, can you raise your hand just so people can have a feel for who the committee members are? And yes, we thank you guys so much. They have name tags. They have name tags so that you can see who they are, and as well as and you can also talk to us. But it's important, although you're having conversations with the public and with a committee around these maps, it's really important to put your input on the survey so that everybody, all the committee members and staff and consultants and all of the members of the public can benefit from your input. This online survey kicks off tonight, and it's open through midnight, November the 13th. You can go to the BCPS page. If you go to bcps.org, you can go on the left and scroll down. There's a boundary change link. And if you click on that boundary changes link, you'll see Pleasant Plains listed under there. And if you keep following into that, you'll see the survey that you can go online and fill out. We do ask you to give us as constructive feedback as possible. Give us input as it relates to our rules and our considerations, so that we can look at it through the same lens. We encourage you to look at the data and the maps through the same lens that this committee is tasked to do. And we know that there's emotion involved in any type of boundary change, but emotional is something that we try to isolate and focus on statistics and data to make informed and equitable decisions here. You can always email the BOE or the Board of Education or committee at boundarystudy@bcps.org. That's an email address that anybody can email, and we share that with the committee. We do share these comments with the committee, and the comments are logged verbatim to the website for public viewing. So whatever you put on there, just know that that your comments will be shared and be made public. So just be mindful of that. And you guys can always attend committee meetings. We have 2 more, like I said. And if you don't want to do that, these meetings are recorded, and you can always go back and look at them. And there is a public hearing on February 26th as well, after the recommendation is made, where the board will invite the public to come talk to them individually or as a board, and you can voice your thoughts about the maps or the recommendation at that public hearing as well. So that's all we have for the presentation. Oh, one other thing. We also have the survey available on laptops back here. If you want to fill out the survey tonight, you can go on this little table back here that has the laptops and participate in the survey there if you'd like to do so. Okay? So, yeah.
Signed in, we also have the sign-in sheets over.
Yes, if you haven't signed in, we encourage you to sign in so that we can keep a tally of how many people have came to participate in the public information session. But with that said, I just ask the committee to kind of spread out around maps and help the public and have conversations with them. And we'll talk with you about at the maps. Thank you, guys.
The maps